This is how the room is now, but it fills up with business leaders, community leaders, and the program for Michigan Chronicle Pancakes and Politics starts right now.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again for joining us this morning. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Mr. Hiram E. Jackson, CEO of Real Times Media and publisher of the Michigan Chronicle.
Good morning. Everyone can come on in and have a seat. I know everybody's excited to be back to, well, not normal, but getting back to normal. Almost spring, March, DAC. It's like a rites of passage, right? So come on in and have a seat. My name is Hiram Jackson, and I'm the CEO of Real Times Media and the Michigan Chronicle. And welcome to the 17th year of Pancakes and Politics. Give yourselves a round of applause. Anybody in here who's never been to Pancakes and Politics, raise your hand. That's great. That's great. That's great. Pancakes and Politics was birthed with the premise that we have more things in common than we do apart. So each spring, folks from Wayne, Oakland, Genesee, Washtenaw, the entire region, we come down here to talk about issues that we feel are important to our region. You look around, you see ethnic groups of all fashions, white, black, folks of all socioeconomic backgrounds. And we just felt 17 years ago that everybody should be at the table when we're discussing these big public policy issues. And so folks always say, well, you're the black newspaper, why don't you do this event in the community? And I always say, why did Jesse James rob banks? Because that's where the money is, right? The powerful, the influential, they have lunch and breakfast here, so we're just gonna crash your party and come talk about the things that are important to us, right? I don't know if I can get y'all to the Northwest Activity Center, right? So I'm coming to where you are, right? I want to thank the governor, Governor Whitmer, for joining us today. We have a tradition of having the governor of the state do the first Pancakes and Politics each year. Jennifer Granholm, Governor Snyder, and so this has been a great tradition for us. But this year we have some exciting new elements to Pancakes and Politics. We have some exciting new sponsors, some new elements, thanks to business leaders. For Michigan, I see Jeff Donofrio there. We're going to be continuing on our virtual series called Pancakes and Politics Overdrive. We're going to be announcing that schedule pretty soon. We're really excited about it. And thanks to General Motors, our broadcast partner, we'll be able to make sure that more people can experience this content and be a part of this discussion. So thank you, Terry Radigan, and your team for helping us with that. We learned during COVID that these conversations are really, really important. And the 325 people who are in this room are decision makers. If you're in this room, you're either a serious decision maker or you're sitting next to a serious decision maker. However you got in here, somebody gives a damn about you. Somebody. A few of y'all snuck in here, that's all right. So I want to thank our staff, the Michigan Chronicle and the Real Times Media staff, Pre-COVID, we did 60, 70 of these a year around the country, these types of events, and they will be humping all year. Really want to thank our long-standing sponsors, our presenting sponsor, PNC. This is the 8th year that they are our partner. Signal Restoration Services, Rocket Mortgage, DTE Foundation, Walker Miller Energy Services, Business Leaders for Michigan and General Motors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, UHY Advisors, Bank of America, Ascension, AAA of Michigan, Lambert and Company, Comcast Business, the Remington Group, Truscott Rossman, Wayne County Community College, Global Automotive Alliance, Honigman, Chase, Wayne State University, Henry Ford Health Systems, Guyanga Company, George Johnson and Company, and Health Alliance Plan. Please give yourselves a round of applause. And, we have a couple of new partners, Brian McKinney and Anthony McCree, Candace Bowman with Equal Sign. I love it when black companies come and spend money at Pancakes and Politics. Thank you very much. All right. So I have the duty next of introducing Rick DeVore. Rick is the outgoing regional market president for PNC Bank. But more importantly than that, he's become a very dear friend. He is leaving PNC Bank to go to the Community Foundation as its CEO. And over the last several years, between Rick and Dennis having competitions on who's got the flyest socks, I think Rick beat him 1 month, and so Dennis said, I ain't wearing no more socks. But I really appreciate PNC Bank and my good friend Rick DeVore. Thank you.
There you go. This is a bittersweet moment for me. I've said many times from here, this is really the intersection of Maine and Maine. I mean, this is where you want to be if you want to be in a thoughtful, good conversation about all the things that are important to Southeast Michigan. But I'm happy to use this as an opportunity to announce and just kind of showcase my replacement, Mike Bickers, a native Detroiter, back after a 4-year stint in Chicagoland. I really can't think of a better guy, and he is a Detroiter, and he'll explain that real quick, and we'll get out of the way and get out of the governor's way. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you guys. Just very excited to be back home after spending some great 4 years in Chicago with some wonderful teammates and wonderful folks in the community like all of you. My wife and I are thrilled to be back, and really the most important part is to focus on within PNC and outside of PNC, having an impact on those who need it most, those who need us the most. And so that's what I hope to be a part of. So it can't get more exciting than this. It's Friday. We kind of kick off spring. We kind of kick off Pancakes and Politics. We have our governor here for meaningful conversation. I don't know what else could excite you more. I really don't. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Lynette Dowler, Vice President of Public Affairs at DTE Energy and President of the DTE Energy Foundation. On behalf of the foundation and our company's 10,000 plus employees, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to say a few words today. Like you, Detroit is where many of us at DTE live, work, and play, and we are honored to serve this city through our natural gas and electricity. In addition to providing key utilities to so many, we aspire to be the best in the world and the best for our world, serving as a force for growth and prosperity in our communities. Our company's goal is to inspire and encourage engagement in the communities to build productive and safe neighborhoods for our families to raise their children, conduct local business, and have access to necessary services. The DTE Foundation is among the state's largest foundations committed to Michigan-focused giving, supporting initiatives focused on arts and culture, community transformation, economic progress, education and employment, the environment, and basic human needs. In 2021, our foundation supported nearly $19 million in grants that support this region. The foundation is focused on supporting effective, equitable programming that is culturally relevant and serves the needs of our community and its residents. Moving forward, we are looking forward to drive positive, meaningful change in 3 key areas. Education, partnering with nonprofits focused on re-engaging and recovering the educational loss that so many of our students have experienced since COVID-19. Our workforce, we're aiming to rebound our workforce through improved job readiness programs, which pair individuals with employment opportunities, and equity, as we aim to create a community of equal opportunity, access, and support. In the end, our investments can't drive positive change alone. The strength, support, and passion of our community partners are vital in helping us carry out our mission of service. The DTE Foundation will continue to play an active role in supporting our commitment to be a force for good across the state. We know that it takes all of us working together to create meaningful, impactful change in the community. Thanks for joining us today and for everything you do to make Michigan great.
All right, I'm going to get started here. I do want to mention that we are obviously recording this as we do every year, so if you told somebody you're going to be someplace else, this is the time to leave, all right? Took a sick day. Somebody's going to see you. All right, I want to introduce our host this morning, Ms. Kelly Root. She is the executive editor of Crane's Detroit Business. She started in March of 20 in the middle of the beginning of COVID, so she's happy just to be with us right now. Prior to that, she spent 15 years at the Detroit News, and prior to the Detroit News, she was with the Grand Rapids Press. Kelly is going to be joining us and assisting us in the audience to make sure that we get good provocative questions, and she's going to be asking questions of the governor herself. And our other co-host is Dennis Archer Jr. I think this is Dennis's fourth year already. He's the CEO of Ignition Media Group, and he's going to help facilitate the conversation and introduce the governor. Thank you, and have a wonderful time.
Good morning. I want to thank you all for being here. I'm feeling extra good this morning. Well, let me say this first. This was supposed to be yesterday. And so were this yesterday, I would not have worn socks. But given that it was 43 degrees this morning, I wore socks. And Rick, you probably won because I got on some plain gray socks this morning. So this morning, my kids are eating breakfast, and I'm feeding the dog. We're all getting ready. And I was feeling some sort of way. So I was trying to figure out what song to play. You know, you got your game day, you go into somewhere important, you need your background music. So I came up with Fat Joe and Remy Ma All the Way Up. I could see by who's laughing who knows the song. But we played about 2 or 3 times. It was incredible and really got me in the mood. One of the last times pre-pandemic I was in this room, it was actually with the governor hosting a fundraiser for the vice president. And I think the date was about March 9th. So things were starting to bubble, but there was no mask. People didn't really know what was going on. And that night, I don't know if I ever told you this, Governor, but that night came back to bite me because I have some very, very right-wing Southern clients that saw a picture of that. It's somehow on social media, which I'm not even on Facebook. And they called me promptly and said, you know, we're giving you 30-day notice. So it was funny. Our deal was almost over anyway. But thank you all for being here. Shout outs to Frank Torrey, who couldn't be here, who's one of our newer significant sponsors from Signal Restoration. They just do an outstanding job keeping people ready. They're building safe and getting people back to work. It's Women's History Month, and so I'd be remiss in not pointing out then in all of my operating companies, all of the leadership in those companies are all women. And so shout out to my crew. Appreciate y'all. And I want to thank Hiram, his team, his partners, investors for putting on Pancakes and Politics. These are very important conversations about various serious topics that need to happen, yes, Hiram, where the money is, but it needs to happen in a diverse room of leaders like this, because us sitting on my back porch or Hiram's back porch talking about the problems is not the best way to get to solutions. And only in this diverse, bipartisan room where we can have candid conversations with the state's leadership can we actually come to some conclusions and move forward. So thank you all for being here in that regard. And speaking of those very important topics, it's funny, my kids and I, we do dinner and a movie. We watch half a movie because I got to do homework, and we eat dinner every night. And so last night they said, I don't want to watch a movie. Can we watch Blackish? I'm like, sure. And so last night on Blackish, the topic happened to be, how many of y'all know what Blackish is? All right, let's make it sure. It's a relevant story. So we're watching Blackish, this episode where Anthony Anderson's son, he's excited to vote, he's 18, and he gets a notification on his phone that says you've been kicked off the voting rolls. And so it went through this whole show about how the vote has been attempted to be oppressed over a number of years. And Anthony Anderson, although it's a comedic show, he had a very good point. He said, I want to quote it, he said, the system isn't broken, it's working exactly how it was designed. So in a majority of states across the country, including our own, there has been an attack on our voting rights in a multitude of fashions and strategies. Fortunately, we have leadership in our state that are protecting us against that. We have leadership in Washington protecting us against that. But the issues and the topics are not just in the state or domestic. If we go over to see what's happening in Ukraine right now, I personally sometimes am guilty of believing, with the exception of our folks over on the African continent, believe that racism and oppression has its roots and is relevant and alive only here today. But then we see visions of black people not being allowed to get on trains to leave Ukraine. We see visions of black women and children being thrown off trains. And when they go to companies like Poland, many of them are not admitted because they're black. So our issues are not just in Detroit, they're not just domestic, they're across the world, and it's incumbent upon us to be aware and to somehow get involved. But bringing it back home, this past year was an election year. And so here in Detroit, so we elected an incumbent mayor, but 5 new city council people for whom will be held accountable, and people will expect change. Andre Ashe, hyper-locally, went out into the streets, we're going to see a video in a second, where he asked people in the streets here in Detroit, what needs to change? What are the issues that you're facing? And before the governor gets started, we're going to see that video. But our governor, she formally filed for re-election yesterday, and I look forward to hearing directly from her why she believes she's earned another term. She's our state's leader. She's a friend, and despite being a Michigan State Spartan, she wished me congratulations yesterday on Michigan's victory. So, Governor Whitmer, come on up.
From the higher prices at the grocery store to the cost of fixing a damaged tire, we hit the streets to get the pulse of the people and to get Detroiters' take on the issues impacting them.
It's going to be pretty hard to get to work in a minute. You know, if you're only making $10 an hour or $12 an hour, you got to put half of that in the gas tank every day. Yeah. Something wrong.
Rico is a meat producer in the Eastern Market District. He's taken notice of the economic inflation and rising costs of almost everything.
A 40-pound chicken, $48, $50, maybe 80 tops. Now, the price of a 40-pound chicken costs $146, $160. So everything is going up, like we said earlier, but except for the pay.
From the added cost to fuel up to how Detroiters get around, the pinch is hitting the pocketbook where the tires meet the road.
This is my 3rd time in 3 years where on my way to work, I've hit a pothole and been sitting on the side of the road. Gas prices and the damn roads, the holes in the roads.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wear and tear on my car, along with the insurance.
Sometimes I don't even go certain places because I don't want to deal with the damage on the roads. I don't want to pay $1,000 out of pocket to make a repair that I'd be more than happy to pay $500 in additional taxes so that I don't have to pay $1,000 for my car.
And despite less COVID pandemic restrictions, most Detroiters we spoke with don't see a return to normal. Instead, they see and feel the high cost of living hitting close to home.
Inflation is a concern of everyone. Detroiters most definitely, because if we can't afford our gas, if we can't afford, certain necessities to pay for, I think the priority would have to be in budgeting and economic financing of the state, and also of balancing the budget of certain cities.
Food, meat, everything is going up. So I think that should come down. If possible, hopefully it can. Because even for the working people, it's kind of hard to afford, going to the grocery store all the time.
In Detroit, Andre Ash, Michigan Chronicle.
Thanks, Andre, for putting that together. Before we start with the questions, Governor, would you like to give some opening comments?
You know I would. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. And to Dennis and my Wolverine friends, like my children, go blue yesterday and go green today, right? I'm really happy to be here with all of you. It has felt like a long, lonely couple of years where we couldn't get together and do this, and boy, is it joyful to be in person and together to talk about the things that are most important to all of us. And I think, as Hiram said, what unites us is a lot stronger and more powerful than what divides us, although it's hard to see the difference sometimes in this environment. And so I'm honored to be here at Pancakes and Politics today to talk a little bit about my economic vision for our state and how we can continue getting things done for that really make a real difference in people's lives right now. So right now, our economy is growing. According to Bloomberg, we're experiencing the best recovery in our history since the beginning of the pandemic 2 years ago. We've added jobs 9 straight months in a row, and unemployment is decreasing faster in Michigan than almost any other state in the nation. We're the number one state when you equally weight measures of employment, personal income, home prices, stock market performance of our incumbent businesses, and publicly traded companies. And $400 checks per vehicle are hitting people's mailboxes right now, and will be in everyone who gets one will get it by May 9th, which is helping in terms of all the crunch that people are feeling from inflation or increasing gas prices. We're in the midst of a manufacturing boom. We've added 20,000 good-paying auto jobs since in the last 3 years, with the first auto plant in Detroit in nearly 30 years being built here. And we've become a standout for investors. Our kids are learning in person, and we are open for business. So we're working hard to get things done. We are here talking about politics early in the morning after St. Patrick's Day. 30 years ago, I wouldn't have been here this early. All right, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been here this early. In the midst of March Madness, too. I saw someone tweeted, 70 degrees, St. Patrick's Day and March Madness, thoughts and prayers to East Lansing. But best of all, we've got an open road ahead of us. We've taken our state from a projected $3 billion deficit. That's what we were looking at in May of 2020, a couple months into the pandemic, when it was ravaging our state, the Black community in particular. Economists told us, oh, by the way, we're projecting $3 billion deficit. That's 30% of our general fund. Of everything that impacts our lives was going to be impacted by it. Now, today, that projected deficit is a $7 billion surplus for the state of Michigan. An incredible change. And so while some of these statistics are impressive and there is a lot of good happening in our state, not everyone's feeling it yet. And that is very true and very clear, and that's what centers the work that we will continue to do. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the budget that I introduced a couple of weeks ago. Because we've got this incredible surplus, thanks to the Biden-Harris administration, thanks to good management throughout this pandemic, I proposed a budget that can help people keep more money in their pockets. First and foremost, in unprecedented spending in things like education and things like closing the skills gap and things like infrastructure. Also, the ability to give people some relief. This budget not only doesn't raise taxes 1 cent, we've built in tax relief for seniors and for working families. I'm proposing that we repeal the retirement tax, which will put $1,000 in 500,000 households in Michigan. And I'm proposing that we triple the earned income tax credit. And as some of you might know, that is a tax credit for people that are working full-time but can't keep their head above water. This is $3,000 that would get into 730,000 homes. And the best part of that is that it's 1 million children live in those homes. Half the kids in Michigan. Half the children in Michigan are in homes where they got a parent who's working their tail off but can't get ahead. This is who benefits when we increase the earned income tax credit. So by doing this, I just want you to know what it would mean for Southeast Michigan in particular. This would benefit 378,000 families in Southeast Michigan, putting $1.1 billion back in people's pockets. That is how we help people get through inflation or rising gas prices or pay to fix that rim while I'm still fixing those damn roads, right? This budget has the highest per student funding as well in our state's history. Now, 4 governors before me tried to close the gap between the poorest districts and the wealthiest districts. We know historically kids in wealthier areas have had more resources toward their education than kids in socioeconomically struggling districts. We have closed that gap, something that's been in the making for decades. So that's what equality looks like. But equity looks like recognizing that kids in lower socioeconomic districts need more resources to level the playing field. So we built in major increases in at-risk English language learners, CTE programs, and students with special needs. That's equity, and that's something we've built in for 4 years in a row as well. So we're making strides on the education front. There's no question that the pandemic has been the biggest disruption any of us could have ever imagined. And our kids need additional support to get back on track. But we are making that investment. I propose even greater investment on that front. The budget also includes the biggest infrastructure investment in our history. I'm proposing an additional $1 billion. Now, you might recall, and if you don't, you'll be reminded this fall as we get closer to an election. My first year, I proposed a solution to our global infrastructure problem. Legislature not only wouldn't embrace it, they didn't counter with anything. So I moved forward without them and did a bond. So we're fixing state trunk lines and bridges, but a bond can't be used toward local roads. And I know when we listen to the folks in this video and I talk to my friends across our state, those local roads are beating up our cars too. So this investment that I've proposed with $1 billion more will help us fix those local roads and bridges as well. And I propose more resources so that we can invest in public safety, whether it's firefighters or police or first responders, and training and enhancing skills so that we are able to ensure that people are safe when they call the police. And delivering hero pay for our essential workers. So this budget gives us an opportunity to do some things we haven't been able to do in a long, long time. I've spent the better part of the last 20 years in state government, and I can tell you, until this year, we haven't seen a budget where projections are growing faster than inflation, which that means all we've been doing is cutting over decades. This is a moment where we can put dollars into things that really set us up for long-term success, and that's what I'm so excited about. There are a lot of reasons to feel glum after the 2 years we've all just been through. We've got huge opportunity in front of us if we live up to this moment. So, we've made some great investments over the last couple of years, but equity and opportunity centers all of the work that we do. Since I took office, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation has awarded $940 million to support 250 business and community development projects here in Southeast Michigan. We've leveraged over $16 billion to create nearly 30,000 jobs. Through COVID, we set up 23 economic programs to support small businesses, delivering over $80 million to 12,000 businesses in Southeast Michigan. 30% was invested in geographically disadvantaged areas to retain over 87,000 jobs. And in December, I signed a bipartisan bill that both cut personal property taxes for small businesses. Those of you who are doing your taxes right now are probably seeing the benefit of that. And we set up a grant program so that we can distribute $409 million in federal funds to businesses that were impacted by COVID, but not able to get relief from the earlier programs. And all of these investments are focused on bringing families and jobs and prosperity to Southeast Michigan. Together, I know we've got an economic engine that we can ensure is about equity and opportunity for everyone. And so I'm proud of what we've done for working families in Southeast Michigan. We've empowered 110,000 people here to get on a path to enhanced skills so they can get into better paying jobs. The Michigan Reconnect and Futures for Frontliners are two programs that level that financial barrier to a 4-year or 2-year degree so people have opportunity. We've built 4,800 affordable housing units here in the region and invested $15 million to upgrade local and state parks in the area. And when it comes to infrastructure in Southeast Michigan, we're going to continue getting it done by investing $1.8 billion since I took office on those damn roads. And I think this year we're going to talk about fixing the dams and roads because water infrastructure is a big part of the work that we're doing as well. So as I finish up, I just want to talk a minute about our future and where we're going. For too long, we've walked away from the rich tradition that helped us here in Michigan build the middle class, become the arsenal for democracy, put the world on wheels, and draw people from around the world to the state of Michigan for opportunity. Many elected officials have neglected programs and policies that could create a great quality of life and a good cost of living for people. It's not a binary choice. We know that quality of life and business climate have to go hand in hand. Developing a skilled workforce and an ecosystem of economic opportunity and a solid quality of life at the same time. That should be what unifies us. Michigan should be a state that invests in ourselves, in building things and empowering people in a place where small business and a good idea means you can make a good living right here. That's what we're working toward. That's why I wake up every day feeling determined and optimistic. So thank you for your leadership and the community and all the different hats that you wear. You make us a stronger, better, more inclusive state, and I thank you for your inspiration for me this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I'd be remiss, Reverend Anthony, usually you come in a little later and I see you coming in, so I didn't see you sitting there. But good morning, brother.
Hi, Rev.
Governor, you mentioned equity and opportunity. You talked a little bit about the next 4 years in the future and what you'd like to do if you're reelected. When you were elected within days, you signed one executive order or a few, but they are around equity and opportunity, ensuring fairness for geographically disadvantaged businesses, a lot of whom are African American businesses. During COVID, when we saw the disproportionate effect of the pandemic on small business, minority-owned business, black businesses, particularly where Rufus Bartell knows this, 40 to 45% of small black businesses, restaurants and retail in particular, did not reopen coming out of the pandemic. So in your next 4 years, with the foundation of what you've done to date, what are your plans to keep that support and effort up for small, minority, disadvantaged owned businesses?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and I want to start with this. So when you hear economically disadvantaged businesses, I'm sure some of you are like, why do we refer to it that way? And that's
Right.
because, of course, there's a preclusion on us focusing on businesses of color, right? Minority-owned businesses. So this is how we focus on making sure that we can get resources into the community where they can make the most difference and level that playing field. Upon taking office, I selected a group of incredible leaders to help me as we've navigated leading the state. We've got the most diverse cabinet in the history of the state of Michigan. When you look at the appointments that I've made, you can tell equity and empowered representation and expertise are the cornerstones of the people that we put into positions of power, and we've changed the dynamic and the makeup of decision-making bodies in Michigan, and I'm really proud of that work. I also signed an executive directive telling state departments that we need to stay focused on making sure that we create opportunity for businesses that have been left out of the ability to compete for state contracts or able to participate in taxpayer-invested things that we are doing on behalf of the state. So I'm going to just point to one department as an example. Paul Ajaba is our director of MDOT. I call it, he's the fix the damn roads guy. He is a bold leader who has had equity at the center of his work his whole time that he's been in the department. He works with HBCUs to bring in black engineers and to create opportunity in the department. And I think it's because that's who, that's what Paul has always done. That's who Paul is, and he's an incredible leader. In MDOT alone, we've prioritized economically disadvantaged businesses, and over $100 million worth of contracts have been engaged with black-owned businesses. And that's just one example. But Tommy Stallworth from my team has really been spearheading this work with the Department of Management and Budget. We've held a number of opportunities to pull in small business, black-owned business in particular, to understand how the process works, get feedback so we can level some of the barriers that kept smaller businesses from participating. And when we do things like bridge bundling, I know that you don't know what that, no one knows what that means. I know what that means. Here's what it means. When instead of having small businesses compete against the big guys for every contract, like rebuilding a bridge, when we bundle them, it actually creates more economies of scale and more opportunity. And that's a part of why we move that way. Yes, we're going to get better return for taxpayer dollars, but it's also primarily about ensuring that we are creating real opportunity for Michigan small businesses. And that's another example of one of the ways that we've changed state government to create more opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Before I kick it to Kelly and our guest questions, give us just a brief summary of the roads, right? You ran on the roads, you saw the video, it's the roads, the potholes, the tires. What are the stats on what you have done versus what you had hoped to do had you had the support to get it done?
Yeah, so, okay, let's start with this. We've underinvested in our infrastructure for decades. For decades. And undoing the damage is not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen over one term. It's not going to happen over 2 terms. This is a long-term issue that we are confronting, and we are starting to make real impact in terms of improving our roads and bridges. So I came out of the blocks, and I did what I said I was going to do. I'm going to put a bold plan to actually fix the problem. Because we're talking about local roads and bridges. We're talking about county roads and bridges. We're talking about state roads and bridges, federal as well. So I led with a gas tax. All right, I didn't want to do it, but that's what it was going to take to fix it. And had we done it, we would have been able to do a lot more work by now. Legislature, despite the fact that they said they would, they never actually entertained a solution on this front. So I moved forward without them. I got the Transportation Commission to do a bond, and we put $3.5 billion so that we could try to stay the incredible decline that was happening all across our state. So we've been fixing a lot of state trunk lines and bridges. But a bond can't be used for the local roads. So when you're driving in your neighborhood or in your community, those roads are not going to be improved by the bond that we move forward on. We are going to need, ultimately, a long-term, dedicated resource to do that. But right now, because of all of these federal dollars, thanks to the Biden-Harris administration, billions are coming into Michigan, and we are going to be able to make investments in all of these spaces. To date, though, we have already rebuilt or repaired over 13,000 lane miles all across the state of Michigan, over 900 bridges. We were closing bridges 4 years ago. Now we are rebuilding bridges. So we are making progress on these fronts, but the magnitude of the problem and the local nature of what a lot of people continue to see every single day, because we're mostly traveling on local roads, are complicating factors. And I think it's good to hold us accountable. It's good to ask the question, but that's how we're proceeding and some of the challenges in front of us. So if we can get the legislature to get this budget done, we're going to make incredible investments and empower local communities to fix their roads too. I propose a 5% revenue sharing increase ongoing and another 5% on top of that one time. So we've got the ability to make these improvements. Proposals around that would impact how we fund our roads, though, could compromise that. And I think that's one of the things to keep in mind as we see all the rhetoric in Lansing right now.
Oh, thank you for that. Kelly, I'm not sure, I can't see where you are, but next question is, oh, here you are. You got a question for the governor?
I do. Can you hear me? Is the mic on? Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Governor. I'm with Crane's Detroit Business, and I want to just state up front that I am a Michigan State Spartan, so my bias is right out there.
All right, go green.
Hey, Kelly, I'm going to cut your mic off.
But my daughter just graduated from U of M, so we are a house
fair.
divided.
All right.
So my money went to U of M. I want to start out, Governor, talking about the gas tax a little bit more and the gas prices. As you saw from Andre's video, Detroiters, everybody is concerned about the prices at the pump. We've written a lot of stories about back and forth solutions on how to make gas affordable right now with prices soaring. The legislature has sent you a suspension of the state gas tax, which you've signaled that you will not support, and you've said that you favor a suspension of the federal gas tax. So I'm wondering where you're standing on that veto right now. And would you sign a bill suspending the sales tax on gas, given that Michigan is one of the states that does have a 6% sales tax? And I know that money goes to the school aid fund, but given that gas prices have been so high, presumably, that's generated a lot of money so far, so maybe it makes sense to do that. What are your thoughts?
Well, Kelly, I know you're watching this, so can you tell everyone when that legislative solution would actually go into effect?
I believe it's 2023.
So I'm going to ask all of you, is that really a solution to the pain people are feeling today? I'm only making that point because obviously, talking about process doesn't get anyone any goodwill. But the fact of the matter is, the quote-unquote solution that the legislature just passed doesn't go into effect for another year. That's not going to give people relief at the gas pump right now. So what I have signaled is that if the legislature wants to get serious about giving people some relief, they'll find an eager partner in me, and I'm happy to negotiate what that might look like. But let me also say, a little bit I just want to dedicate a little bit of time to talking about how do we really give people relief? Well, that bipartisan auto insurance reform is getting people checks right now. $400 is the landing in people's mailboxes right now. That is what relief looks like. Eliminating the retirement tax. For people that are living on fixed incomes in this environment, that is real relief for people that are going to struggle to pay the high cost of groceries or the high cost of the gas pump. Increasing the earned income tax credit. That helps working families that are struggling to just meet their daily needs. And it helps 1 million kids in Michigan. This is how we have targeted relief that will really help people that are struggling to pay for the cost of inflation or the increase in gas prices. Now, some of the solutions we've got to be thinking long-term. What does it mean? Because if we're taking resources that we could invest in things like improving educational outcomes or rebuilding water infrastructure in communities across the state of Michigan, or leveling the cost barrier that keeps people from getting skills to get into a workforce, into a good paying job. If we do blanket tax reforms that give everyone a little bit and undermines our ability to make those equitable based investments, we haven't really done something meaningful for people that need the help the most. And that's what's going to continue to center my analysis as I go to the negotiating table with the legislature if and when they get serious about giving people some real relief right now to help meet needs in the midst of all this all these economic pressures people are feeling.
Quick question, follow-up on the $400 refunds that you've mentioned. Everybody is looking forward to getting $400. We have written at Cranes a number of stories over the last couple of months about catastrophically injured motorists who are losing their home health care as a result of changes in the no-fault law. They were not grandfathered in, so these home health care companies are losing substantial amounts of money, and folks are kind of caught in the middle. And the House Speaker this week indicated that legislative solutions to that are probably not forthcoming. Do you have any thoughts on whether there's anything more the state can do to help these individuals?
So I can say this, I was disappointed that we won't have additional conversation this year around some additional statutory solutions. The Department of Insurance and Financial Services is working closely with catastrophically injured people and their families to make sure that they are getting timely payment, to ensure that they've got access to the medical resources to which they're entitled. So Anita Fox is doing an incredible amount of work on that front and partnering with advocacy groups to do everything we can to help meet people's needs. Ultimately, some sort of a statutory conversation is one that I have said I welcome and think would make sense. But at this juncture, what we can do unilaterally in state government is make sure that that department's working with injured people and providers to do everything to keep them in business and able to meet the needs of our people.
Thank you, Governor. And we want everyone, or as many people as possible, to participate in the conversation. So a couple things. You all should have cards in the center of your table, and Antoine Turner is going to move around. He's in the back. Antoine, raise your hand. If you got cards, just kind of wave. He'll come grab them. And also, we've got Andre Ash here, who's going to also participate in the questions and move the mic around for people that want to speak themselves. Andre?
Absolutely. So we're going to try to work this room as much as we can to get as many audience questions as possible. Governor, one audience question asks is this: what is the state and your administration doing to help the city's homeless population?
I appreciate the question and recognize we're coming out of this pandemic. It's very clear that there are a lot of people that are struggling in Michigan and across the country. This is not unique to us, but addressing the root causes and ensuring that there are affordable housing options. But it's often not just a housing issue, right? Housing definitely is an issue in all parts of our state, from Detroit to Traverse City and everywhere in between. And that's why, I proposed $100 million to put into our MISHDA fund, working with affordable housing groups to refurbish housing, to bring it up to code and make it safe, or to build from scratch and everything in between. Lots of states have these tools. We have a way to do it, but we haven't prioritized resources, and that's one of the ways that I'm proposing we use these federal resources. Another, though, is obviously dealing and helping, giving people support to be successful as we try to help come out of homelessness. And a lot of times there are behavioral health issues, there are addiction issues, there are mental health issues. And so I have proposed record investment in building a psychiatric complex here in Michigan. We know mental health has been underinvested in for decades. We know that there were some dramatic things that happened a few administrations ago, and we've never recovered from it. So prioritizing this, as well as recognizing the mental health aspects of the homelessness issue, as well as substance abuse and behavioral health, are really crucial to our success in this space. And these are all priorities reflected in the budget that I've introduced. So I think we can make a big difference in people's lives. You would love to get this budget done and across my desk so we can continue the work that we've already done in this space.
Looks like you got a handful there, Andre.
I do, but so we're going to try to do quick questions, quick response. One question says here from the audience: I saw you and the mayor talking during Black Bottom yesterday on the news. Last November, the city of Detroit passed a reparations bill language. Their question is, do you support that initiative, City Council's reparation ordinance or bill?
So as we look to the work we can do on 375, it's recognizing a really painful history, right? That obviously is real for so many families here in Detroit. Hiram spoke at our event the other day, and I think we've got an opportunity to do something, but it's got to be driven by the community. It's got to be driven by paying homage to the prosperous, incredible communities that were displaced by this big ditch that was created. So this is something that is going to be community driven. So I appreciate what is happening here on the ground in Detroit. I'm never going to come in and say, I know better. I'm going to listen. I'm going to make sure that my team is listening and that we are real partners in addressing issues that are unique to certain parts of the city, but that we're all grappling with. And I'm grateful that we've got an administration in Washington, D.C. that is prioritizing this work, because Detroit's not the only city in America that this kind of strategy played out and hurt Black communities. And we got an opportunity to make it right, and to do that, it's got to be inclusive and community driven.
And we're taking live audience questions too. If you raise your hand and you want the mic, we can bring you the mic.
Where can I get the mic?
You know.
All right. I just want to squeeze in this one quick question from the audience, and I'll question as well. But this question goes to the governor, where they say our schools, urban and rural, can't get enough teachers, particularly special education. How do we address teacher shortage? Very briefly.
We knew we were going to have a teacher shortage 5 years ago, long before anyone knew that COVID-19 was on the horizon. And so fewer and fewer people are going into the profession. We've never had enough real representation in the ranks of teachers. We know how dramatically improved outcomes are for students if they've got a teacher who looks like them at some point in the first 10 years of their schooling. And so the work that we're doing to try to keep people in the profession and lure more in is what drove the budget that I introduced. So the budget has bonuses for teachers, parapros, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, everyone in our schools. If you show up again to your district this year, you get a $2,000 bonus. You come back next, another $2,000. If you're a teacher or a social worker, someone that's a licensed professional, you can earn up to $11,000 in bonuses over the next 4 years by returning to the district. I've also proposed that we help people who want to go into these professions and support districts with grow your own programs. That's how we get more people of color in front of the classroom, by recognizing in the community people that want to pursue that. Let's level the financial barriers and get them the skills so that they can be the leaders in our classrooms, and our kids can look up to and see themselves and improve their outcomes as well.
All right, question this morning from Ray Winans.
Hey, great morning, Governor. We've been working with your office, some of our partners. Can you talk a little bit about your criminal justice reform initiatives, as well as the community violence intervention initiatives that your office is leading?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. One of the things that we've really done some bold work in, bipartisan work, is around criminal justice reform. And it's made a huge difference for people in our state. We've got a lot of people who made a mistake, did their time, and have been carrying the burden of that mistake with them their whole lives, impacting their ability to get housing or a good job or into a skills opportunity. So the Lieutenant Governor worked with Bridget McCormick, our Supreme Court Justice, to drive work in this space. And we had great participation and help from Republican leadership in the legislature, as well as the Democratic leadership. So I got to tell you, I attended an expungement fair in Flint last summer. 1,000 people were in line before 8 o'clock in the morning to get their records expunged. These are people that want to participate in our economy, want to take care of their families, but a past mistake for which they already paid the price was preventing them from doing that. So that's one area. By helping people get into a good paying job, whether it's the job courts that I've just proposed, working with local employers and making sure that nonviolent offenders get jobs instead of time. These are just a couple of examples, but we've done a great deal of work in this space. I'm really proud, and it's really been bipartisan and driven by the expertise of how do we keep communities safe, but how do we make sure that it really has justice in this system.
So you've probably got time for a couple more questions.
Hi, Governor. Matt Elliott with Bank of America. I was lucky enough to see you in a venue a few weeks ago, and you talked about the impact of population growth, and you mentioned the general fund being stagnant for a long period of time. Would you mind maybe expanding on that and telling us a little bit about how important that is to our budget?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we were all pleased to see was that our population actually grew in the last census. Now, we lost a congressional seat because it didn't grow as fast as other states, but it did go up, and I think a lot of people were predicting that it was dropping. It wasn't. But as we think about our long-term success, we got to make sure that Michigan's a place that is welcoming and attractive and a place that people come to for opportunity. Whether it is people who are immigrating, people that are refugees, people that we want to, give a better life from the state of Ohio. We want Michigan to be the state that people come to. And one of the knocks on Michigan for a long time was that we didn't have economic development tools other states had. We moved too slow, and Lansing was dysfunctional. And we saw one of our big incumbent employers make an investment in another state, and that finally, I think, pulled everyone to say, all right, we got to do better here. We got to arm ourselves so that we can compete. And so we moved quickly. It was a bipartisan effort. There are a lot of leaders in this room who are a big part of it. Business and labor, our utility partners, the Republicans and Democrats, we came together to enhance our set of economic development tools. We did it quickly, and we showed that Lansing can get things done. So we've flipped that narrative on its head, and the fruits of our labor are already seen in a $7 billion General Motors investment, 5,000 jobs building batteries here in Michigan. We cannot assume that the auto industry is always going to call Michigan home. We got to do everything we can to fight for those advanced mobility and manufacturing jobs. That's what we're doing. We're in competition for a lot of opportunities now because we've got these tools and the world saw that. But the greatest thing about the auto industry is that people came from around the globe to Michigan for a good paying job and a high quality of life and real opportunity. And that's got to continue to center who we are. It's not all around autos. It's around who we are and what we offer. And that's why making Michigan home for more people, growing our population, building out broadband. So if you got a great idea and you can do it online, you can do it from the most beautiful place on the planet. These are the things that we need to be focused on and where I hope we can find a lot of common ground, because when we are successful in this space, it inures to all of our benefit.
We're going to take one more question, Andre, from the audience.
All right, Yvette Anderson, Wayne County Community College.
Just wanted to say good morning, Governor, and make sure that we know that not only are the Spartans in the house and the Wolverines, but the Wayne County Community College District is in the house, Eastern Michigan is in the house, and Wayne State University is in the house today. So in regard, we know the pandemic has severely impacted what's happening in the community of higher education, enrollment, specifically in Wayne County, and Detroiters more specifically. In addition to frontliners and programs, how do we get equity? Because we know that equal is not equity. How do we get equity and opportunities for folks in terms of the infrastructure, broadband access, transportation, food insecurities, and child care?
I mean, leave it to the last question to build 10 things in it. She's an efficient woman. It's one of the things I've always loved about you. So I appreciate the question, and I think as you look at this budget, equity informs so much of what we have prioritized and what I have proposed. Wayne County Community College District, we have I've proposed making another historic investment so that you can create opportunities for more students. I know the incredible work that is being done here, whether it's at Wayne State, Wayne College Community. I always screw it up.
Wayne County Community College District.
Okay.
There you go.
And I think that we recognize that this pandemic had a disproportionate impact on communities of color and on women. Many refer to it as the she session because so many women left the workplace because we're wearing a lot of hats, whether it's something hurdle because no access to daycare or not affordable daycare. These are things that we recognize and that informed the budget that I've introduced. So we've already made great strides when it comes to GSRP, expanding that so that all 4-year-olds have opportunities all across the state and are eligible for free early childhood. And the work that we've done for 105,000 families have benefited from free childcare, daycare. There's more work to do in this space, but we've made some progress, and I've proposed making greater investments on all of these fronts. I think about food insecurity. I know a lot of our students are struggling just simply to make sure that they've got the nourishment that they need every single day. So I've proposed an investment in our food banks and greater investment at the community college level to meet some of those needs. So the great thing about having this moment where we've got this surplus is if we're strategic, we can really do some things that are long overdue in this state and set us up on a long-term path for success. Now, these $7 billion doesn't mean we're going to have the same $7 billion next year and the next year. So we can't just build out all new programming that we can't sustain. That's setting us up for failure. But if we're strategic about making investments, whether it's like in affordable housing or building out broadband to create access, these are long-term investments that will give us returns over and over again and require a one-time upfront investment. That's what I'm proposing we do. We think strategically, not just blanket policies, but really focused on where we can move the needle, make a difference.
Thank you, Governor. Before I close it out, I'd like to invite you to make some closing comments. And we like to leave here with a deliverable. So in your comments, if you could tell us what we as an audience can do to help move the agenda forward.
Yeah, well, thank you. I always love coming to this event, and it's great to be here with all of you. I think we've got, we really do have an opportunity in front of us, but it's got to be driven by all of us, informed by all of us, and driven by all of us. I don't think any of you should assume that your legislators know how you feel, how any of these particular budget items hits you and what it means for the community, and I encourage you to make sure that they do. The most powerful voice in any office holder's ear is a constituent's voice. It's the most powerful. And so please stay engaged in this process. Stay active. Educate all the people in your atmosphere, whether it's at work or it's at home or it's in all the different hats that you wear. And just stay involved, because there are a lot of reasons to feel like, oh, it doesn't matter, or they're going to do whatever they're going to do, my voice doesn't matter, or I'm just tired, right? Every one of us is tired after the last couple of years. Now is more important than ever, because the decisions that are being made in the next 4 to 5 months are going to impact our kids' education and the roads on which we travel, and whether or not we got workforce with the skills to do jobs that are available, or the opportunities to build a business if you're an entrepreneur. So that's my ask, is that you stay engaged. And, of course, at 9:50 tonight, that you root for the Michigan State Spartans.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you all this morning. Thank you to the governor. Hiram mentioned this is our 17th or 18th year. What you're going to find this season is that we're making a tremendous effort to not be stale. We're going to do some very innovative things. You saw we had Andre take it to the streets and hear from real Detroiters the week of the event to hear what people are thinking real time. We're going to be doing more things like that. While we did not live stream this morning, we will upload this and we'll notify everyone when it gets uploaded so you can watch it and you can share. And Governor, because you went out of your way to wear green and white this morning, I'm going to do something I have not done in 53 years. Go green. All right. Thank you all.
I'm Michigan Chronicle digital anchor Andre Ash. So there were many community leaders and business executives in the room talking about important issues of the day. So what was their biggest takeaway? We talked to them after today's discussion of Pancakes and Politics. Take a look.
This was very, very entertaining. It was insightful. I think the governor was frankly brilliant in her responses. and I think the audience actually was quite engaged. So for 8 a.m. in the morning, in the middle of March Madness and the day after St. Patrick's Day, it was great.
You know, my biggest takeaway was hearing from the governor relative to specifics to help the state of Michigan and Southeast Michigan in particular. And I think the fellowship in the room proves that everyone's committed to that.
We talked about education, we talked about taxes, we talked about the roads, we talked about equity in a deep way. Those are the conversations that we need to tee up with forums like this. And, you know, I think the governor ended with, don't be apathetic. As residents of this great state, get involved. Well, that's what the DTE Foundation is all about. It's like, how do we unify our communities to make a difference in our communities from the grassroots all the way up to Lansing?
What's interesting about Pancakes and Politics is that it's a blend of people, real talk, and real issues that need to be addressed. So I appreciated the conversation. I believe that Governor Whitmer is a great role model for women. The fact that she isn't shying away from talking about issues of race, issues of gender, and the intersectionality issues. Women lead differently. I'm just going to say, looking at you, Andre.
Yes, absolutely.
We lead with our head and we lead with our heart, and we bring the whole village along with us. And so I'm excited for the village of Michigan and especially for the village of Detroit.
First takeaway was how much people miss being with one another, right? So that was evident the moment you walk into the hallways, that people are just so happy to be able to see each other, you know, have some connection. That was the first thing. The most important thing, though, was the governor's talk and what she said about what is going to move this region and the state forward and how we all have to be a part of it. And I think that's so important.
You have individuals that have power and that's making decisions. And so too often it's decisions without even having actual facts, right? It's based off experiences or information that you've been given. But the people that's most impacted by the issue sometimes don't even have access to give the information out in the way that they're being impacted by it. And so this was used to know that the community, I'm not going to say the community, the neighborhood folks was actually represented today in Pancakes and Politics. So I'm thankful and grateful for that one. Don't stop advocating. I think that's one of the good things about Pancakes and Politics is that it does present an opportunity for us to communicate and to advocate. So I don't give Harmon a whole lot of credit, but I give him credit on that one.
We appreciate that, Reverend. Thanks so much.
All right now, appreciate you.